My name is Aurianna, and I currently live in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm 28 years old, and I am a somatic coach professionally. And I began working with ayahuasca back in 2013, so it's been a little over 5 years. And Carolina and Pedro were actually there at the very beginning of my medicine journey in the jungle. And they were a huge part of why I fell in love with the medicine and why I fell in love with this process. And just from the very beginning, they held such beautiful space for my unfolding and my remembering and my releasing. And so over the last 5+ years, I've sat in nearly 100 ceremonies, and I was even facilitating for a while. And my journey with the medicine was not an easy one. There were definitely some challenges and some things that arose in my experiences with other shamans and other facilitators that left me feeling unsafe and disconnected and really kind of distrusting of the medicine and the process. And I actually took over 2 years off of drinking for myself and doing my own work. And just about 6 weeks before this retreat, Bobanzana, one of the plants that we work with here at Tree of Light, came to me in a dream and called me back and called me to Tree of Light specifically. And the message was very clear, and even though it was clear and I felt some sense of safety in, knowing that this work is powerful, there was also a lot of fear in my body because of those past experiences with some other shamans. And but I knew that I was being called and that I would be safe and I would be held. And so I got myself down here and had the most beautiful and profound and healing experience coming back to the medicine, coming back to ayahuasca, coming back to the shamanic path, the Shipibo way of working with plants. And it's in huge part due to Carolina and Pedro that I was able to access that sense of safety again, and that remembering of why I do this work. Because for the last couple of years, I really honestly wasn't sure. But they held such beautiful space and just had the right words at the right time, and the ceremony was just held so powerfully that it brought me back to this place of remembering exactly why I'm on this path. My first 2 ceremonies here during this retreat out of 5 were particularly challenging. Like I mentioned, there was a lot of fear in my body and it was really clouding the experience. But through the container, I was able to kind of peel away those layers and hold presence with them instead of pushing them away or kind of not looking at them the way that I had been for a couple of years. And in the second ceremony, Carolina came and did some work on me, and she really, really helped me move through something that was so much deeper than even about the medicine. And I realize now, hindsight's 2020, I realize now that all of this that came up over the last couple of years was really here for me to help me reach this super deep root of self-doubt and self-hatred, and even I would go as far as to say disdain for my own existence. And I've seen in previous ceremonies, and it showed up again, the layers of intergenerational, just the women in my lineage hating themselves and disrespecting themselves. And so Carolina helped me through her songs and through her hands working on my belly to move through some of this stuff. And it was possibly some of the biggest release I've ever had, but it was so different. Like, I feel like I've accessed this space before in ceremony, but there was such an awareness of what was happening that I was able to really be with it. And I believe that presence is what helps it unfold. When we try to push it away or ignore it or pretend like it isn't there or try to talk ourselves out of it, it just creates more resistance. So I was able to really really hold my attention on it so that it could really release. And then from there, I woke up the next morning after that second ceremony singing and just connected to this sense of pure joy and kind of a reverence for this life. And from there, the third and fourth ceremonies were super beautiful, physically challenging, but how I was holding myself was very different than maybe any of my previous ceremonies. And there was this experience of kind of the Kundalini Shakti life force moving through me. Like I felt like my whole system was being rejuvenated with that essence of life, whatever you want to call it. Just that kind of core life force was just permeating me and my thoughts and my body, and I felt like dancing. I did dance a little bit with my hands and just like moving to the Ikaros and really like feeling that zest again, which has been missing for a long time. And then the fourth ceremony was just as beautiful, and learning the kind of just subtle energetics of how I hold myself and how I hold myself, especially in relationship to challenges and things that I don't like. And it's kind of hard to even put into words. It's very somatic. It's very sensational and energetic. But if I could put it into words, it's kind of like I would try to, maybe a little bit aggressive, try to dominate it, try to love and light it, Reiki lightning bolts at it kind of thing, thinking that this was the way through. And what I realized was that like it's actually so much more subtle, that when I kind of step back and move into this like underlying energetic space, that's where the true transformation happens. That it's really about surrender on a super, super deep level. Like, yes, I have influence, but I don't have control. So I was really learning how to work with these energies in my body and in my mind. I could sense my mental body, my emotional body, and then that kind of underlying energetic current that permeates everything, and like seeing the pros and cons of each of them and how they serve in certain ways. But then also there's kind of shadow, and we can get lost if we're too much in the mental or too much in the emotional. So that was just deeply profound, subtle, super subtle, but deeply profound. And then the fifth ceremony was last night. And it was challenging. There were more layers of this self-hatred being purged out, but I don't really know how to describe it other than it's just very different than anything I've ever experienced. The sensations were the same, the purging was the same, some of the thoughts were the same, but being with it in a completely different way. And I see how, over 5 years of medicine work, how there's so many layers, and there's so many points to kind of pivot and change things, and it's not usually what we think it's going to be. Like, I came here wanting something specific, and I feel like I got something even deeper. Like, I see that what I wanted was kind of from my pain body and from what like I thought needed to happen versus what really wanted to happen. And so last night was again just kind of connecting with this this sense of power, and just learning how to be in a new way that feels, going home, it feels like it's going to be just completely transforming everything I do. My service, my work, my relationships, how I treat my body, just knowing these subtle layers in a new way, it just feels like everything's going to be different from here. I truly believe that a part of the power of the work that's been done here is the location, being in the mountains, being in such a clean, pure space. I know when I first started drinking medicine, I said that I would never drink outside of the jungle. I wanted to be where it came from, which is powerful, but there's something about Las Chupas, the retreat center, the mountains, that's just the essence of it is so clean, and it feels like it's just that much easier to access some of this stuff. I did a dieta with Bobenzana, and in nearly 100 ceremonies before coming here, I have only cried twice in ceremony. And I cried, I think, 3 or 4 times being here, and it was beautiful in that I could feel my emotional body being cleansed. I could feel different channels of just emotional availability opening up. Places that I thought I'd worked on through personal development and through a lot of different work that I've done over the last 10 years. But it was just so sweet and so pure to just let those emotions move through me, and create so much more spaciousness in my being. And the ceremonies were so beautifully facilitated. You know, I love the mixed groups, the men and the women. It really creates a space for us to do our work in relation to life, right? Because the fact is we live in a world with both men and women, and most of us have had painful experiences with one or the other, if not both. And to be in a space that's just so loving and everybody is so caring and so accepting, it gave me a whole new experience of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and that kind of union and activating those different parts within myself. Yeah, just everything about how they run the retreats, the group shares, the art classes, the yoga, everything was just super perfectly aligned. There was a lot of space to be with ourselves and to really go in and do our own work, but also a lot of space to just engage the body, engage the mind, engage the heart in a new way as well.